Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I am Andrew Sumner. This is Ram V. This is Dan Waters. How are you both?
Good, good. Making comics, telling stories.
Surviving.
That all of those are fine and noble endeavors. And you guys are here to talk about a fascinating project, which is your new Skybound image book, Universal Monsters, The Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. So before we get into why The Creature from the Black Lagoon, how did this project come together, guys?
Yeah, originally it was because I was talking to the editor at Skybound, Alex Antone, chief editor at Skybound, and he was talking to me about Universal Monsters, that Skybound had acquired the rights to do these comics, and that they were reaching out to creators. It was a bit of a funny thing. He was very apologetic. He said the only thing is you can't do Dracula because James Tynan, who's a good friend, had taken on Dracula. And then my reaction was, yes, of course, James has taken on Dracula. And then my second reaction was, what about Creature from the Black Lagoon? And so that's how that came about. I pitched them an idea, and Alex took it. He loved it. He said, Universal had to approve it. But by the time Universal's approvals came through, I had already started discussing an exclusive contract at DC. And so I came back and said, hey, doesn't look like I'm going to be able to actually write this thing. And then I know Alex had already been talking to Dan about pitching a few story ideas for these things. So he suggested that, hey, why don't we ask Dan to work on this book based off of the idea/outline that we created. And I said, that's fine by me as long as Dan actually wants to do that. And then I had a conversation with Dan where Dan reminds me, I said, it's Creature from the Black Lagoon and True Detective matched together. And Dan's immediate reaction, I remember, was to go, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I actually think the creature is a tricky one to get right. And that just felt like exactly the way to sort of infuse it with a bit of modern mystique. So I could really see how that would work. So it was an exciting thing to sort of jump onto.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it was built into the brief. I know Universal didn't want to just do the monster in the comic. It had to be something around, something maybe featuring another character from the same film. So it really kind of lent itself to treating the creature as this kind of almost force of nature observer who casts a tall shadow over everything. And that's kind of what led to the idea in the first place. And it's also what I had loved about the original film.
Now, can you elaborate? And at this point, I'm going to come clean. I was so fascinated that you were both collaborating on this book because Creature from the Black Lagoon is far and away my least favorite Universal monster. so when I saw it, it was the one that you were doing. I was like, that is to me such a fascinating decision. So if you could get into that a bit more, what the attraction of the creature is for you, and the True Detective, mashup, that seems very interesting to me. But can you elaborate a bit more on the force of nature thing and what it is about the creature that has drawn you guys in this instant?
I mean, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
So I think maybe the sort of like the thing that can make the creature either people's sort of favorite or least favorite is that I think it's the most nebulous of the Universal monsters. It's the one with the least sort of rules set, the least obvious motivations. It has to sort of stay half in shadow for it to make sense. But that can also be like very much the appeal of it, in that everyone kind of has a different idea of what the creature is and what it wants and what it's doing out there in the Black Lagoon. And that that stands for both, people who watch the movie, like who read our comic, and also the characters in the book as well. There are all different people who want something different from the creature, who want it to be something that sort of projects something important onto this being. And the creature in itself is again, it's a force of nature. It's its own thing. It does not care what you want. It does not care what you think of it. So that's a really interesting um element, or like sort of thrust to put through a book.
Yeah, I mean, my answer would have been pretty much word for word exactly the same. Part of the reason I was so interested in the creature is because I think narratively there are two kinds of horror or crime or drama stories that we look at, right? One where the antagonist is this kind of fully formed 3D solid thing in front of you, and very clearly that is the bad guy, and these are all the good guys, and they have to try and somehow survive or overcome this evil thing in front of them. But the other kind of story that exists is where the antagonist is so much of a blank slate that it almost becomes like a mirror. And so anyone who looks into the face of this antagonist sees themselves in some way. And so I feel like the creature acts like that for all of these characters and readers and creators that deal with the book, in that the creature is whatever you need it to be, while simultaneously being this vessel for fear, for the unknown, for fantasy, for romance even, which I think the original film does really, really well. And I think that's part of the reason why I feel like it stands out amongst the rest of the Universal monster films, because this is the film where the monster itself is treated with a level of delicacy and nuance that you don't see in a lot of the other films. And the True Detective connection, I think, also works for the same reason. If you look at season 1 of True Detective, their big bad, their antagonist for most part of the season is unknown, nebulous. It's not about the bad guy. It's about the badness in all of the people we think are the good guys. So yeah, I love it for that reason, and that's part of the reason I was excited to work on it.
Guys, I think that is so interesting, and you're doing the almost unthinkable and making me actually want to read this story, which is it's great. Who's your art team on the book?
Matthew Roberts and Dave Stewart. Yeah, Matthew's art is incredible. I mean, obviously I've seen the interior pages, but it has that very comic book quality to it, while also being sort of intelligent and mature enough to treat it with the kind of touch that this kind of story needs. And Dave, what can I say about Dave Stewart that hasn't already been said? So
Yeah, and the two of them draw the hell out of a underwater scene, which is not always a given, and is obviously pretty important for this book.
Right on. I imagine from the panels that I've seen, actually I think the underwater scenes look a hell of a lot better than they do in the original movie. So it's a quantum leap. Yeah, it's just right tonally, I think. Guys, thank you for your articulate candor. All about The Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives, which is available for pre-order from the links attached to your conversation. Thanks as always for joining me. That was really, really interesting.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Andrew.
pleasure.
Yeah. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon. Cheerio. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.